Okay, this is how to use our online wrestling academy. We have broken wrestling down into 4 parts. Basics, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. The core of the system is phase 1 and 2. That's how we built our whole wrestling academy over the past 20 years. We've basically taken the entire sport of wrestling of 6,000 moves and broken it down, let's say, into the best 275. Divided those up again based upon what's mandatory for a first-year 5-year-old or a first-year 14-year-old. What are more elite techniques that you need to have? Why would you need more elite techniques? Well, there's counters to counters you have to know. So if let's say I get to my high crotch on, a JV wrestler, they're probably not going to react besides a sprawl. But if I crack them down and I'm wrestling someone who, let's say, is, wrestled 9 years, when I hit my high crotch crackdown, they're going to wrestle off of their hip. They might even shoulder slip, which that's on the plan too. So they countered my high crotch with a shoulder slip, and I need to counter a shoulder slip and finish. So counter to counter to counter. That's what advanced wrestling is. It's a waste of time to drill that with first-year JV kids or even second year. It's a waste of time to drill that in youth wrestling if the kids have 4 years of wrestling or less. It really is a waste of time drilling those counters to counters because they're not going to get a chance to do it, right? So all of this has gone into it, right? Now our Wrestling Academy, we started the Wrestling Academy industry in 1999, and now we have the world's first online wrestling academy. This is an academy. This isn't just moves online. This is just like getting your black belt in karate. You start here and you work your way up through the belt system. You do this skill, you get this belt. Same way in gymnastics, right? So we broke wrestling down. So how do you use this? As a coach versus someone at home. Let's talk about someone at home first because it's very simple. If you're a dad working with your kids at home, I don't care how long they've wrestled, start with the basics, work your way through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, drill it all. Work your way through all of it. I would say hit 30, then go down, hit 30 more, go down, hit 30 more. You say, well, we're gonna get through the first page today on Monday, then on Thursday, we're gonna practice for an hour and a half. Then we're going to review this, we'll hit 10 of each or 15. Then we're gonna start on the next page. Okay, now we're done. So then next Monday, we might hit 10 to 15 of the next one, hit 30 of the next one. So always going back. And then you have a highlighter. You keep sticky notes right here. And you're trying to keep yourself organized and say, you know what, we really struggled with the low single leg on phase 3. So we're gonna spend more time here. So then you have your wrestler read through. The famous football players can study their, they study their playbook while they're sitting by their pool outside their mansion. And when you study a playbook, there's a video clips that go through your mind. So if I said underhook throw by, a video clip should go through your head, right? If I said grand slam, right, you'd probably think of a grand slam. If I said the word apple, an apple image pops into your head. So reading this is almost like drilling. So I would encourage all the athletes to read their drill plans, okay? So after you get through all the phases, then what you do is you focus on phase 1 and 2, and you say, this is our core drill plan, and you might pull a few things. If they're a beginner wrestler, you might ignore phase 3 in the beginning. Obviously, someone working with their son at home who's a freshman in high school who's wrestled 8 years, I would still start with the basics and build up, but they're not going to have to drill getting off of their back as much, right? So if you're practicing with someone who's a first-year 6-year-old, you probably wouldn't even mess with phase 2 and 3. Let's just spend 6 months on the basics and moving into phase 1. So hopefully after 6 months, you can say, we have 300 to 500 repetitions of all of phase 1 and 2. Now in the off season, now we can just put this aside and enter phase 2 a little bit, or sorry, basics phase 1. Then in the off season, you can start pecking away at phase 2. You have to use a little common sense here, right? But for the most part, I would like for you to drill and master everything. And then you take phase 1 and 2 and you say, this is my drill plan. You might pull a few things from the phase 3, There might be things on phase 2 that you just won't use. So you say, I'm never gonna shuck anyone. It's just not a front headlock technique that I'm going to use. So you put a little light black line through it. So now, and you add something else that you would use differently, right? But it's still good, I think, twice a year, 3 times a year, just to drill through the whole list, because your wrestling will evolve. You're like, man, you know what? I've never had an underhook throw by in my life, but for some reason, I'm just digging that position. And you know, I've been drilling it a lot with my dad, and then, you know, it hasn't been on my core drill plan, but, you know, we touch it on occasion. We call it touching through our techniques. I've been touching through some drills from an underhook, and man, I'm just like feeling it now. So now they're a junior, or maybe they're 9 years old, and now they're the underhook master, right? So you never want to ignore everything. So on occasion, hit it, have it on their drill plan, but you might not drill it every week. Just, hey, hit 5 of these real quick, just so we can keep the position in our mind and the technique in our mind. But you take phase 1 and 2, and you pull a few things from phase 3. You maybe scratch a few things off, all right? And you maybe pull a few things from the basics program that you maybe struggle with a little bit. And now you have your core drill plan. So stick with your core drill plan. Drill it twice a week, you could say. And if you don't have time to drill it twice a week, you know, you can just draw a line through it and say, I'm gonna do this half on Monday, this half on Tuesday, and then next Monday I'm gonna do this other half. Then the Thursday or whatever your practice is, do the other half, and then start back over here, so that you're revolving through it. You don't wanna drill everything every practice, because then you're gonna be there for 9 hours and you're only gonna drill everything 1 rep. I would rather saturate a position and hit it, you know, 20 to 70 times, depending upon where I'm at in the drill cycle, whether I'm kind of in the touching through phase or it's a new technique. So once you get your drill plan, drill it, you know, just constantly. And if your kids get old enough and they go to their own practices, take this plan, tape it to the wall, take a picture of their cell phone, and make sure they're just living in the drill plan. Because if 90% of the points come from 10% of the wrestling, that's not gonna change. In 20,000 years, wrestling's come down to this. Why deviate, right? So that's what I would do if I'm coaching my own kids, or I'm using the online purlerwrestling.com academy for home training. Now, what do you do if you're a team? So people say, I wanna know exactly what to do. Well, I've already done that for you. It's called basics. That's what you do in the beginner's room. Youth wrestling, maybe even middle school teams for the states that have that, and a high school coach, use the basics drill plan for your JV team and your freshman team. That's it, right? Then you use phase 1 for the advanced youth wrestling teams and the varsity team. Now, what if your youth team, if you break it up, you say, I have 5 to 8-year-olds who are first year, and I have some really amazing kids. So you might say, well, I'm gonna use the basics program for these kids, and for the elite youth kids, I'm using the basics program, but we're pulling a few techniques off of the phase 1 program too. So you have to use a little common sense, right? I can't just say, here's the plan you use, because some of you might have a nationally ranked high school team. In 3 years, you graduate 13 seniors, the team's all freshmen and sophomores, your feeder system fell apart, and you say, man, we went from hero to zero. Well, I can't plan that for you, right? But I have you at the 95% mark. So yeah, pull a little bit. So what if you're an advanced high school team? Phase 1, leg riding of phase 2. Super elite high school teams, nationally ranked high school team, you might be able to drill all of phase 1 and phase 2. But for the most part, basics is for youth teams. Basics plus some of phase 1 is for the advanced youth program, or if you divide the room up in half, right? If you have maybe a super elite youth team, everybody's wrestled 4 to 8 years, 70% of the kids wrestle year round, you might just focus on phase 1. That's very few of you. The basics. High school, basics is for the freshmen, incoming beginners, and the JV team. And you might pull, you might say, well, our freshman team's all brand new, basics. Our JV team is not brand new, but they're not great, phase 1. and you might pull a few basics techniques off of there, like getting off your back, how to pin somebody, right? But a lot of things in wrestling, you don't have to drill every day. Once you learn how to get off of your back, it's good to drill it 50 times, but you don't have to drill it again. If I say, and it's on our DVD series, our online academy, put your hairline on your opponent's, mine's getting hot hair here, put your hairline on your opponent's collarbone so you don't get thrown in a headlock. You don't have to drill that 900 times a day for the rest of your life. You're like, oh, that makes sense. I did 5, I'm an expert. A lot of wrestling is like that. So in the basics program, you might have it on your drill plan for your advanced JV team, but you know, after the first week or two of practice, you scratch it off. We don't need to drill it anymore. Then who knows, maybe after tournament, you're like, hey, you 3 guys, guess what? You got pinned. Let's practice getting off of our back. It's just called being a coach, right? You always gotta go back, and nothing's perfect, right? But for the most part, I've got you at 95%. You advanced high school teams, phase 1, leg riding, or phase 2. You say, well, when would I use phase 2, all of phase 2 and all of phase 3, right? A few nationally ranked super duper elite. We have some teams, all right, who have used the Purler wrestling system. Nick in Wyoming had 10 state champs in 1 year. Carlos Prieto, he's used our system for years. He's in Kansas City. They've won the Garden City state title many times. They've had as many as 6 state finalists in a row, and they've done that many times. They're gonna use all of phase 1 and phase 2, right? Because they're touching through. He's gonna say, okay, number 1 guy, football grip, pull down, go behind. Good, 45 seconds. Number 2, go. Good, number 1, football grip, pull down, partner resist, dresser dump, go. Time, number 2, go. He's going 45-second goes. He's calling out drills. He's not demoing. He's not talking anybody through anything. He's got a super advanced team. But for most of you, it's just phase 1. Or it's phase 1 and the leg riding of phase 2. That's it, okay? Now, as far as all of phase 2, except for the few nationally ranked teams that might use all of phase 1 and 2, that's what you do in the off season, right? So in the off season, you say, okay, guys, we're gonna master phase 1, or phase 2, and phase 3. And you're still gonna use phase 1 as the core drills. You're not going to ignore that, right? But that gives the kids some fun and incentive to join, because when you start looking at, you know, the phase, where is it at? The phase 3, I mean, they might like a pick and drive single leg, right? They might like to bump and back out from a high crotch crackdown. An elbow trap is a great technique, right? They might want to learn how to pass the leg. When someone has a double leg and you're on your butt, they might want to learn how to pass the leg. That's on phase 2. So you say, well, we are focusing our team because it's a great varsity team. We're focusing on phase 1, but we're going to add, our kids are good, we're going to add the elbow trap and leg pass from phase 2 and 3 onto our phase 1 plus leg riding drill plan. Or you may say, you know what, we're super basic varsity team. We're not gonna mess with the leg riding. We're just gonna focus on this for now and add leg riding, you know, after the first month of season, right? So it depends on how fast the team learns. But you can use my phase 1 as a template and pull some things. But in the off season, it's pretty exciting to say, we're gonna learn all this new stuff, guys. Right? And now next year, when you start your season, you're like, okay, we had an 80% turnout rate. Now our team is better. So last year we were a great varsity team. Now I think we're crazy skilled. All of phase 1 and phase 2. Last year we couldn't do that. This year we can, because I had a commitment in the off season, 8 months of off season. 2/3 of your wrestling career is off season. Right? So if you're using that time wisely, you can get to a point where you can say, we're a phase 1 and phase 2 varsity team. That's what we do, right? And you can start maybe to work your JV kids into that as well. So, you know, I'm just, like I said, I have you at the 95%. You have to kind of deal with the ebb and flow of kids, who's coming, who's going, who participates in the off season. And, but I do think that for my perspective, when I redid my series, Foundation Wrestling, it's registered, trademarked, all of this stuff is copyrighted. I mean, you name it, right? That's the reason, you know, we obviously don't allow anyone to share their passcodes. We monitor that through the emails and so forth. we've been doing this since 2005. And when I revamped those, I didn't make that many changes, but I made it to where I am making this for the coach, but also user-friendly for the dad. I say dad, because most of them are dads working with their kids at home, okay? So that's the reason the basics is kind of a drill plan for this team. The phase 1 is the drill plan for this team. Phase 2 and 3 are great for the kids who are training on their own or in their basement or whatever, but you can use these as off-season training programs. You can pull, I'm gonna take 9 techniques from here, 3 from here. You know, as a team, we're not really using a dress or dump from a football grip, so we're scratching that off, but we really suck at pinning people, so I'm gonna make sure that's on my practice plan from a varsity high school perspective, but we're just gonna drill that once a week, you know, as a warm-up, every Tuesday, whatever. So, you know, I've got you really, really close, but you have to use some legwork, and your practice plan might change. Like I said, if your whole team dies because you graduated 12 seniors, you have to chop it down over what you have been able to do for the past 2 to 4 years. And if you have a lot of off-season commitment, now you say, dude, we went from a phase 1 or a phase 1 plus leg riding varsity team to a phase 1 and phase 2, all right? And you know, you might pull a few phase 3 off of there as well. But that's how this thing is lined out. So it's good for the teams and it's great for the kids at home who are practicing, okay? So that's how I would use this. Now, as far as teaching, we have, I put some videos up, it's on the coaching section, of me running practices at my gym at Moscow Mills, okay? You can check us out on YouTube also. We have 600, well at this time, probably more by now, videos on things like confidence and you name it, all these different areas that you can use in your rooms to talks and kind of just to have a system for teaching them how to think, how to act, how to organize their thoughts, right? There's also videos there. There's tours of our gym. There's practice sessions there. So you can check us out at YouTube as a tool as well. But on the online academy, all of our tribe members, all right, because we're all going to try to get together and just build the freaking empires for ourselves with our help. If you look at that, we have videos there for showing me running a practice. This is how we break down technique, right? And after the kids are drilling, I'm talking into the camera, giving advice and tips. You definitely want to look at that. But as far as my practice plan, there's a couple ways to do it. We used to call it the index card approach because I broke my drills into index cards and I would say, this is what we do on Monday, this is what we do Tuesday. Because you're not going to drill everything every day. You're going to drill this section on Monday, this section on Tuesday, because we want to really saturate a position. Now, what I have switched to doing over the years is just keeping a sticky note, all right? So this is just a mock thing here. So it says, you know, April 18th, front headlock. So that's what we're doing today at practice. Good, then I wrote in parentheses a little note there. Defense needs work. So now I know that, okay? So next week when I go to practice, I can see what we did. It's April 25th, all right? And you can write your practice plan for this. Or what I've started doing is after the April 18th practice, I plan next practices before today's over. Now we practice once a week year round. You guys are kind of have a different situation. You're with your kids every day. So, you know, now when I come back tomorrow, or on this case, April 25th, I'm like, oh yeah, we did have to review front headlock. So we're gonna go fast through that. And I noticed that we need work on defense, so I'll spend a little extra time there, and we're adding bottom today. And then I make notes. And so that way, you know, I'm gonna have sticky notes here, and I can look through the list, and I can kind of keep myself organized. But another thing, some people just like to put a line through it and say, okay, you know, there's leg attack. You know, they have it broken down, what they can do. But I think a sticky note is a better approach than just mapping it out on condensed index cards or just drawing a line through the practice and breaking the plan into 3 to 4 sections, just because sometimes you don't always get through a section, right? So if I just put leg attacks for, you know, the May 2nd practice, I know that that's where I'm starting. And I keep notes on the sticky note. Then once the sticky note's full, I put a new sticky note on there. And once I get halfway through that, I tear the bottom one off, throw it in the trash, because we're revolving through. Now, one thing here. When I teach a camp or a clinic, I'm teaching everybody freshly from scratch. It's starting over, right? Now, when I have a team, They've been through this. So when you have a team, you're going to get to the point where they know the drills. Like, okay, here we go. Wrestling from a secondary attacks in the basic series. Snap down to a go behind. I like to do one walkthrough because I think that over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, the kids going step by step, it just burns it into their brain. You would be surprised at how many kids, I won't name names, I've had some kids who've won, freshman state champs. We had 6 in the freshman state finals this past year. I'm like, are you kidding me? Dude, elbow deep on your go behind, thumb goes to the chin. We don't dig our knuckles, right? So I'm like, I do one walkthrough. It can be real quick, right? But when you're teaching it from scratch, they're gonna look in, you're gonna do one demo, half speed, then you're gonna do 2 walkthroughs with you the coach doing it, or maybe you have 2 kids doing it. Then you break out as a group, right? Then you do a walkthrough, a few of them step by step, and that's on the online academy for coaches. But there will come a time when you're like, dude, we're gonna freaking blast through this drill plan. Now I know that we've drilled hundreds of reps of each, so now we're kind of in the touching through phase where I'm gonna say, okay, today we're doing leg attack, secondary, front headlock, all 3 positions. We're gonna go 1 minute, 20-second go on each. They're gonna look in, I'm gonna have 1 wrestler demo, I'm gonna do 1 walkthrough, then we go. Time, next wrestler, 1 walkthrough, go. Time, look in. Next technique, I walk Owen through it. Get set, number 1 walkthrough, go, right? And now, when you first teach something, you wanna go 3 3-minute goes, 9 minutes. You come back next week and you teach again. And this is worth pointing out also. If you're coaching kids at home, so let's say you go through all the leg attacks on the basic series on Monday, then Thursday's a practice day. Now you're gonna start secondary attacks and do front headlock because you should have time for both of those. Well, you wanna hit leg attacks again. So now you say, we went 3 3-minute goes last time or more. Today we're gonna go 2 2-minute goes as a review. Then we're gonna go into secondary attacks. Then the next Monday, we might just do a 1 2-minute go on leg attacks, 2 2-minute goes on secondary and front headlock, then hip pressure on top. We might go 3 3-minute goes, right? So we're always moving forward, and we come back and review. Move forward, come back and review. Move forward, come back and review. And I'm keeping notes here too that says, man, our duck under looked terrible. So next week, we're supposed to do just 1 2-minute go because we're introducing these new sections to my son in the basement or my team. But we're gonna do a 2 3-minute go on that one because the duck hunter did not look good. There will come a time when you're in the basement, you can just call out drills and they can do it. Now I'd suggest 1 walkthrough, we discussed that. But you might experiment sometimes, especially as a dad just watching 2 kids versus 2 coaches watching 50 kids. You might experiment with just, on occasion, just calling out drills and let them hammer away and not doing a walkthrough on occasion and see how good they can look. But that's how you teach and come back. But there will get a time, there's no more teaching to do, right? Because the kids at home have done through everything. It took 6 months, but that's fine. High school coach, it took 2 weeks to get through everything. There's no more teaching. That's the thing, is so many high school teams and youth teams are like, okay, now we're gonna learn how to do a cradle. You're like, well, holy cow, coach, it's February 1st. Like, I know we didn't get to it yet because these other techniques didn't look good enough, and I did not want to move forward until we look good. That's wrong. So we want to just kind of throw it all out there. Throw it all out there. They're drilling. They're looking great. You're good enough. We're moving on. Because now when I have the whole plan thrown out in 2 weeks, now we have 4 months to refine. If you say, we're only going to drill these things, and then a month from now, we're going to add this because this should look good, they're going to get stale. The law of diminishing returns will kick in. They're going to get bored. So I'm saying, this looks good enough, move on. Looks good enough, move on. This part I can't be happy with. We're going to go a couple 3-minute goes on that duck hunter. Good. Now it's on the good enough list. Moving forward, moving forward. Then you get to where you have the whole plan. So your drill routine as a coach should be done in 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, you should never teach another new thing again, for the most part, right? You might drill like how to clear a wrist or, some kids are getting pushed out of bounds, how to circle in, right? I mean, whatever, there's always something. You might have a team who, you know, I don't know, they hit a waist ankle a lot. I mean, you might want to spend a lot of time, I don't know. There's always something to spend a little time on, but for the most part, if you get the drill plan laid out and you're okay with not being perfect yet, and you say, now we're drilling everything. Because if you just drill this and this, these other 5 areas never get talked about, and we got state in 2 weeks. Oh, that's not going to be very helpful, right? So that's how I would use this system for working with athletes at home. This is how I'd use this system for teams, whether they're youth teams or high school teams. And remember this, some high school teams have a lot nice off-season commitment. Some of you don't. So you may never get to be able to use this all the way because you coach 3 sports. You don't have an assistant coach. All of your athletes in a little tiny town in Iowa do 3 sports. And you say, we're okay, then you're a phase 1 team. That's it. Be happy. It's okay. It's not a problem. It is what it is, right? Duke University, my friend, my teammate's a coach there. He can't coach the same way that they can at Iowa State. He goes, this is a different deal. It's just not going to happen. Be okay with where you're at, right? Because your competition's in the same boat. That's the reason we have classes in high schools, right? Also, you youth teams, some of you practice twice a week. I even know one youth team, they practice once a week for 1 hour. So then some youth teams, we have a team down the road, they have 4 locations. They have 2 beginners rooms, 2 intermediate rooms, 1 advanced. They have like 19 coaches. It's super organized, 130 kids in the club. Everything is there. You don't have that, right? You're like, dude, we have a little team in a small town. I have 40 kids. You know, we don't have 3 high schools that we have youth practice at. We don't have all of this. So you say we only get 2 practices a week for an hour and a half. You might try to divide up the super beginners from the other kids, and you're just focusing on the basics. And then some of the basics for the super duper beginners, you might just say, we are not going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ways to score from a front headlock in the basics program. Maybe when I move to a town, when I have 3 2-hour practices a week with my youth team and I have qualified coaches who can help, we'll do all that. But right now, you don't have time. So you're really doing them a disservice by trying to hit 5 ways to score from a front headlock. Pick 2. It's like Bruce Lee says, I'm not afraid of the man who's done 10,000 kicks 1 time. I'm afraid of the man who's done 1 kick 10,000 times, right? Under teach, over drill. That's a phrase that we have coined. And I remember Nate Carr years ago, famous wrestler, Olympian. He's like, Nick, I love that. Where'd you get that from? And I was like, I just kind of made it up. He goes, that is right on the money, you know, in all wrestling, especially in high school and kids wrestling. So again, use a little common sense here because I know we all have different practice times allotted to us, but hopefully that helps. If you have questions, you can certainly email me, nick@purlerwrestling.com. And if you're not a member of our coaching academy and our wrestling online academy, you can become one, right? So just go to purlerwrestling.com and you can become a member right there. And we would love to have you. Good luck.